For a session presented by Rocket Travel by Agoda, please welcome Head of Rocket Travel by Agoda and Chief Commercial Officer of Agoda, Damien Pfirsch, in discussion with SkiftX Research Editor, Dan Marcec.
Thank you, everyone, and Damien, thank you for joining me today. So we're here to talk about AI. I know everybody loves talking about AI, specifically generative AI and what we can do with it today. Now, everyone in the audience, let me guess, you have either talked about, thought about, or worked on AI, generative AI, within the last few weeks. And do you know how I know that? Skift conducted a study with Amazon Web Services earlier this year, and 89% of global travel executives said that generative AI was going to have a meaningful impact on their business in the next 3 years. So it's obviously a big topic of discussion, but I find, and Damien, I'm sure you find also, that some of these conversations around it can be a little bit nebulous, right? So we're talking about future looking, we're talking about the possibilities, but there isn't enough talk about what we can do with it today. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to talk all the way up and down the funnel. Rocket Travel by Agoda has a unique perspective throughout the customer funnel. And tell us, what's the organization thinking? What is your advice here to the people in the audience today to get that immediate impact?
Thank you, Dan. So Rocket Travel by Agoda is the strategic partnership arm of Agoda, part of Booking Holdings. And as such, we are in a privileged position to look at Gen AI application throughout the customer funnel with our end customers, but also throughout all our partners' funnel. What we are looking at AI as an organization skills, not just something for developers. This is like a new muscle that the entire organization has to develop. So it's a little bit like running. You don't start running by doing the New York Marathon. Maybe you run the Skift run in the morning, an easy 5K, and then you go up from there. And we look at Gen AI the same way. Having a long-term 20-year vision, like Brian was discussing yesterday, is definitely something you must have. But in the meantime, you need to go with little step-by-step progresses, look at very measurable experiments that you can play with, and then learn and make sure that your entire organization learn about how to implement AI. At Agoda and Rocket Travel by Agoda, we have today about 120 services, and we are doing millions and millions of queries on top of OpenAI to use the information that the model returns. And we have noticed that we can use those models in many different places, such as front-end conversion, customer service, fraud prevention. And we see a very, very significant impact on productivity, especially. We measured that we have saved 250,000 hours of work per year, which is equivalent to 5% improvement in efficiency. So still very much the beginning, still only been a year plus that we're able to develop those services on top of OpenAI, but very, very promising.
Yeah, that's really exciting. Well, first of all, I really liked how you described it as building a skill. I'm a runner too. I've even over the 30 years that I've been running, never gotten to the point where I can run a marathon. I don't have that kind of attention span. So hopefully you all have a better attention span than I do. When it
didn't see you this morning either at 7.
No, I didn't make it this morning either. I needed my beauty sleep. Yeah. So you also did a really good job of explaining all the different areas where we can really have an impact today. But I think what a lot of people are really thinking about is that customer experience. And interacting with customers using these natural language models is a really interesting, unique opportunity. So you'd shared some stats with us from a Gartner study that said 80% of consumers were likely to spend more, or they're likely to repurchase, and 97% said that they would recommend a brand if they had a good customer service interaction. Now that bar actually feels pretty low, but that's such a high percentage. So how can we use generative AI to create better customer service interactions, create better communication with customers, and build up these, those services?
Great point. So this is exactly what we did. We looked throughout the customer experience, and instead of starting at the top of the funnel, where it's a lot harder to get data, we started at the very bottom of the funnel when the customer has already made a booking and is reaching out for services. And there are different things we implemented, but really the main 2 KPI we were looking after is decrease in handle time, so how much more efficient the agents are at serving the customer, but of course with a minimal requirement on NPS and making sure that at the same time we decrease the time, but we also increase the customer satisfaction. I'll share a couple of examples of how we implemented Gen AI to give better services to our customer. The first one is a very simple tool for agents. We call it a case summarization tool. Very often, when an agent receives a complaint from a customer, the email is extremely long. I'm sure that all of us, all of you, CEOs and others, you receive complaints sometimes from customers, and it takes a very, very long time to go through all the details. It's the same for an agent. Right. Very often, also, the agent has a bias for a certain information, and you will understand something that may not be the request of the customer. So we developed a tool for the agent to understand very quickly what the customer wants and what he can offer the customer to help them with their requests. We noticed a great improvement in NPS, and the reduction time, the time it took for the agent to answer the customer was reduced by 30%. Wow. We also have tools helping the agent compose professional email. And the last one that we are currently experimenting with, as many of us, we have a chatbot, right, that helps the customer self-service by asking questions to the customer. Very often, the most difficult point is when the customer sends a very open questions, what is his request? And then we use Gen AI to give more relevant entry into the self-service flows so that the customer right away say, oh, yeah, that's what I wanted. And then once they are in the self-service flow, we can see the customer being able to fulfill by themselves their request. Today, less than 5% of a booking needs human attention. And we think that with OpenAI, we can significantly decrease that number, as well as increase, OK, that was earlier than planned, increase the satisfaction.
That's fine.
This is a different application. Maybe let me take on this one right away.
You want to go ahead and
yeah,
talk
so
about this? That's great.
This is now going up the funnel from customer service to the front end and eventually marketing. On the front-end side, we noticed that the property page is, of course, a very important page for the customer to choose the hotel. That's the place where he will find all the information about a certain hotel. We also noticed, of course, that the customers spend a lot of time on that page. Through different discussion, we understood that it's very hard for them to find the right information. So we developed a Q&A chatbot that helped the customer ask questions, as we saw, to the platform. And when they are looking for a specific information. Is it pet friendly? What's the maximum size of the room? Can I park my car? All those questions are very important, but not always easy to find the information. We have seen a significant uptick on conversion. So, when a customer asks a question, receive an answer, they are much more likely to book. And now we are taking this chatbot and implementing it up from the property page toward the search page, down to the booking form as well. So a lot of investment there because there is a direct impact on conversion.
Right, exactly. And the thing that I've really appreciated the most about using generative AI as a customer is that ability to have a conversation. And to your point, if I heard you correctly, only 5% of interactions actually need a human
after the booking, yes.
So, I mean, I think that's a really important point. And we go back to the stats I mentioned earlier about 97% of customers recommending if they have a good interaction. There's so many more opportunities now to have a good interaction through these types of tools, and that's great.
Correct.
So as you mentioned, we're kind of working our way up the funnel. So let's move like a little outside of the funnel before we really even know what we want. Thinking about discovery, Glenn Fogel, the CEO of Booking Holdings, made a really good point the other day that resonated with me. He was talking about the short-term rentals versus hotel business. And what he was saying is that people will come to the site, and they might be looking for a hotel, and they knew what they wanted, but then they may find something else that they wanted but didn't necessarily expect. And so what I want to talk to you about is the mechanism of finding those things that you may not have wanted or expected. How do we use generative AI to improve the search and discovery process before we're kind of into the funnel and the booking funnel? So where's that happening?
So marketing and marketing efficiency outside of the platform itself is a place where we also implemented Gen AI. We've been hearing a lot in the last few days about customers traveling for specific events. Everybody knows when is the next Taylor Swift concert. That's not easy to know, and you can easily create a page of content, bring your customers, explain them how they can get prices for those dates. What's more difficult is to understand all the little trends everywhere, a new restaurant opening somewhere, a new festival that nobody has heard about. So we use GenAI to scan for the web, interpret the data, and tell us what are the latest trends that people are searching for, and what are the latest trends that people are booking travel for. Based on that information, we produce destination guides, also using different application of GenAI. And we do that 12 times faster now than we used to using human copywriter and human researcher. And as a result, we are able to capture the customer intention. At the moment, he's starting to look for a specific event. It helps convert, it helps inform the customer, and we see very significant impact on conversion as well. Another marketing application is how you can use GenAI to create different declination of a video. We have a very successful campaign in India with the famous actor and celebrity Ayushmann. We took him in a studio for one day only. He did one video presenting one specific destination. Then, of course, with his agreement, right, we didn't do it in his back. We used GenAI to create 200 different declinations of the same video, which talking about 200 different destinations in India. And as a result, we can now use those videos in retargeting someone that has looked for a specific destination on the platform. We're able to serve him a video that is tailored to his last search on the website through YouTube or different places, Instagram and others. And again, that had a very, very significant impact on CTR. It would have taken us, I don't know, 2 months before with the same actor in the studio to create those 200 videos, and there is no way he would have accepted it in the first place. So that's another good example of how you can quickly use the GenAI tool available today to make your marketing actions more efficient.
That's amazing. So we got time for one more question. Can we pull up the QR code? So if you want to learn more about Rocket Travel, you can scan this code while I'm asking Damien this last question. We've talked about why this is important. We've talked about some of these opportunities, what we can do. So how can we start to do this today? How can the people in this audience take something away from this talk and say, this is the next move I'm going to make?
I think it's all about being curious. Everybody's here, so I think everybody is curious, wants to learn more. And it's about sharing that curiosity with your organization. Most importantly, first, give them a framework. Give them a framework to enable them to iterate and experiment. Encourage them to look for small things that they can improve. Having a great vision of, that maybe in 20 years it will be an empty page. You will talk to the bot and he will deliver you your best hotel for your next stay in New York. Maybe that will happen in the future, but that's a longer time span. So encourage them to look for short-term application, give them the tool, and I think also find your champions. You will see that even if you don't know it, there are a lot of people in your organization that are already playing with AI tools. Right. Different applications, search, music, they create poems, they create stories for the kids. And find those people, make them your champion, and make sure that you empower them with all the latest tool, and you will see it creates wonders.
That's excellent. Well, Damien, thank you for your time, and thank you for getting the memo about the colorful shoes.
Yep.
Appreciate it, and it's great to have you. Everyone have a good day.
Thank you.